and introductions, and we'll get this thing started.
Why don't you go ahead and start, Mike?
Okay, let's get started. Again, good morning, everybody. For those that are on the West Coast and on Central Time Zone, and I know we're between lunch to get you going here, and good afternoon for the rest of us that are on Eastern and on the East Coast. Welcome to the Predictive Analytics for Non-Rocket Scientists, and we really appreciate you spending your time here for the next hour to go over this and get some of the benefits and values that Joseph Brandenburg will be covering over the next hour. My name is Mike Tooley, and I'll be kind of monitoring this webinar and going over a little bit of the agenda here, as well as getting into our what I'll call our 2-minute advertising commercial of Done Solutions and introducing Joe Brandenburg. And then from there, I'll turn it over to Joe, and he'll get right into the content of the presentation that you'll be looking at. So a little housekeeping first. For those that have questions, which we encourage you to definitely come up with questions, please post those on the question or the chat forum, and then what we'll do is we'll collect those at the end and address those questions based on time. If we run out of time, we will absolutely and assure you that we will follow up with the answers to those questions. We just can't promise that we'll get to everyone based on the time, and to respect everyone's time on this call or this presentation. So as far as the agenda, as I mentioned, we'll get into a little bit of Done Solutions and who we are. Sorry, Joe, go ahead and get to the next slide here. So Done Solutions is a full IT service company. We've been around for many years, and we've got several locations. Our corporate office is out of Chicago, which is the delivery as well as a training facility, and then we've got locations in Minneapolis, as you see on the screen there, as well as Raleigh, North Carolina, St. Louis, and our corporate company that actually owns us, which is also a delivery outlet, is out of Bangalore, India. So Done Solutions, our practice areas and what we focus on is really falls into three buckets. We started the business back in the 80s doing application development, and that entails everything from custom software application build to, as the evolution of technology and time has progressed, we've gotten into mobile applications, portals, e-commerce, content management, websites. So that's a very, very big part of our business today. And then in addition to that, the second, what I'll call practice of our business is business intelligence. And that's the ability to provide services and software solutions to help organizations better manage the type and the kind of data to be able to make better business decisions, to look at the historical information of where they've been and where they're at today. Some of the items that we cover are operational reporting. We work with building out data warehouses, data integration. Obviously, you can't not say big data when you talk about business intelligence, so we've got a focus around big data and what that means for organizations to better manage that amount of data and the mountains of information there. And then as an extension of business intelligence, we have a separate practice, which is predictive analytics, and that's what we're going to focus on today and what Joe is going to cover around predictive analytics. And that encompasses a whole range of areas that we focus on from a consulting services company, from strategic analytics, you know, a lot of the marketing and the retail, from marketing mix modeling, market basket analysis, and so forth. I mean, the amount of content and the amount of services that we provide around predictive analytics goes very deep and very broad. And what we want to focus on today is a little bit of the business user side of it, and that's why we tagged it and called it predictive analytics for non-rocket scientists. I do want to add that there is another component of our business, which is training and education. Naturally, we do the implementation, we do services, we provide software, we build software, but it only makes sense that we're going to back that up to be able to train and provide education so you can support and run and manage the type of systems and solutions that we're helping you build, if it's a application development, if it's a BI platform, or if it's a predictive practice that you're looking to build. And we are an SAP Gold partner, so one of the things that we provide is also a certified SAP trainers to be able to deliver those different curriculums and training guides. On the far right of the slide, you'll see that we've got what's called a solution. So when we focus on the business intelligence aspect of it, and over the years, we've been able to come up with what we call these BI frameworks. And the different frameworks that we've come up with to date are the ones listed there, from retail to higher education to consumer packaged goods, financial services, and really that entails coming up with some common key performance indicators and metrics that make sense and that are common within those particular markets or industries that we've been able to then sort of packaged in a framework or in a platform to deliver, with the ability to obviously tweak and configure according to the organization's specific needs. Go ahead, Joe, to the next slide. Here's a snapshot, a little bit of our what we'll call our bragging screen, and we work with Fortune 500 companies. We work with nonprofit organizations. We work with federal agencies, government institutions, healthcare, mid-market size company. I mean, it runs the gamut in terms of who we work with and the type of deployments and focus that we provide in the services we deliver. So now let's get into introducing Joe Brandenburg. So Joe, he's been in this business of predictive analytics for 20 plus years, and he brings a lot of insight and knowledge and real world practicality to what predictive analytics can do for organizations. And you know, working with companies to literally save millions and realize multiple billions of dollars in new revenue, as well as saving a significant amount of money. His expertise range across all industries, from higher education to retail, CPG, banking. Joe has come on board with Done Solutions as our practice leader and has really taken our predictive analytics part of our business to a new level and to a new area that we're realizing a lot of organizations and companies are taking and providing and getting more serious about, because it's really about, with a BI platform, knowing historically where you've been, knowing where you're at today, and then the next logical progression is well, where are we going to be going in the near future, and then being able to take those data points, those modeling, and to be able to provide those metrics is what really is important to a lot of management executives at organizations today. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Joe, and he's going to take the next 40-45 minutes and get into why predictive analytics can be for non-rocket scientists. Thanks, Joe.
All right, thanks so much, Mike. So anyway, a lot of you are probably thinking, you know, nothing is rocket science except rocket science. Well, a lot of people have a lot of fears about predictive analytics and mathematics and trying to understand, you know, really, I don't think I can do that because I don't understand what it is. And, you know, for a long, long time, and I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I've come to realize that, you know, a lot of people have a lot of fear of this. Or they might have tried it a few years ago and they couldn't get it going, or maybe they hired the wrong person and, you know, they ran into things where they didn't have the capabilities of actually being able to deploy the analytics and be able to actually make it so that it's actionable. So, you know, we want to solve business problems. We really, you know, companies spend billions of dollars every single year trying to find patterns through analysis. They try to look at, you know, customer churn, and they look at tons of data, especially today. I mean, you look at big data and the new capabilities that you have and the internet and the amount of information that you're actually be able to grab is just phenomenal. So knowing that, a lot of companies that don't do predictive now or just in their infancy are really scared of it. And, you know, they typically will try to hire some type of a data scientist. And you have to understand that, yes, data scientists are fantastic. I happen to be one, as well as being able to do predictive. But, you know, that's not what you ultimately want to do. What you want to do is you want to be able to approach things from different methods, and you want to be able to move beyond just human insight, simple math, and then also looking at complex statistics. You know, and of course, you know, my little message there, that sounds hard. Well, true, if you look at this, I just put together, so these are just some different types of numbers that you could actually have. So, you know, there's binary, categorical, ordinal, binomial, counts, real value additives, and real value multiplicatives. And then how would you go about using them? So, you know, you look at true and false, you look at categorical, there's words in here like chi-square, and you know, different things that you're looking at. Generalized linear models. Most people that you talk to on a regular basis, they have no idea what you're talking about. Especially even when you get into like Chade or Poisson or other things, you really have to have a degree in statistics to really understand that, or have been working in the industry for a long period of time. So, you know, everybody's kind of looking at this and going, oh my God, I got to know all these things. Well, Mastering business analytics is actually broken down into a couple different methods. So there's a set of fundamentals, methods, tools, and tricks that can help us break down things into the simplest terms. It's simple, right? No? Well, how can we actually go about doing that? So there is an art to rocket science. And, you know, being able to build a ship like that and be able to launch it into space is something that we've always strove after. You know, being able to go to the moon, and there's lots and lots and lots of math, and a lot of those people use slide rules and other things back in the past. But what if you thought about everyone in your organization can know enough to solve most day-to-day problems if they use and understand the right methods and tools to solve the problem? So traditional tools required experts. You know, there's no doubt. I mean, there's tools out there that have been around a long time, SAS and SPSS and other tools that are, you know, you really have to know how to manipulate, to program them. You have to be able to understand how to manipulate data. You have to be able to understand the statistics and be able to actually develop out and program those visualizations. You also need to be able to build models by hand. And there were times, I remember early on in my career, where we would have literally building a model would take 6 months, 8 months, a year even, to be able to do some of this stuff. And imagine if you can actually take that now and actually be able to deploy a model literally in a couple of hours. So, and then, you know, models are hard to deploy most of the time, and you would have to actually build decompositions and other things and do what they call weighting, leveling, and scaling, and being able to implement them was very, very difficult. And then let alone be able to actually reuse, and not only that, but be able to set your data into a pipeline and actually have it be able to machine learn so that your algorithms and stuff are actually becoming smarter. And that was actually impossible until now. So let me give you a little bit of background. If you've joined one of my webinars before, I've kind of given a few of these slides. And but, you know, one of the things that you need to understand about predictive analytics is not all business issues need to be a mega complex analytics. And not all analytics need seasoned data scientists to solve. And actually, in fact, about 80% of all business problems can be solved by doing some basic data manipulation, simple math, and some basic statistics. And then being able to take that last 20%, and that's typically where all your value's at, and be able to actually break that down so that you can actually do some of that 20%. So before we even get into that, so let me tell you about what predictive analytics is. Predictive analytics examines patterns found in internal and external data to identify future risks or opportunities. It also, so my little friend over here that I actually took this picture of at the north rim of the Grand Canyon a few years ago, did it the best. And it was one of the neatest things I've ever seen, where he actually went in and he picked up a whole bunch of nuts, carried them over, put them on top of this cut down stump, and started picking them up, smelling them, biting them a little bit. And if it didn't smell or taste good, he threw that away. Well, he went to a bunch of different trees all over the place and really knew where he needed to go to actually be able to pick those up. Well, with predictive analytics, that's what we're trying to do. So it's based on where you've been before, what you know about the situation, and what others have potentially told you. And that doesn't necessarily have to mean that somebody told you that in person. That could be a survey. That could be all kinds of different things that you actually integrate together to be able to build your data. And I'll show you some of that stuff a little bit. So Mike Tooley, a few minutes ago, he kind of alluded to this the traditional reporting versus predictive analytics. So traditional reporting, it works great for getting a view of, what might have happened 5 minutes ago, or, if you do the nightly batches, what happened yesterday, and, you can use big data warehouses, and you can show some historical trends, and you can build some beautiful dashboards. And then one of the things about dashboards, though, is that really an average person can only look at 3 or 4 different variables and get a feel of behavior. And then they usually use that and make a gut instinct on it. That's what made a lot of, people in the past very successful, because they happened to make that right choice without any foundation. That doesn't happen every day. And then people are only good at identifying really what the big trends are, and maybe a couple little relationships. So if we look at predictive analytics, it's more forward-looking. It's more measurable and traceable. You can take potentially millions of different observations and hundreds of thousands and millions of different criteria and funnel that information down to a few key elements that are helping you to identify things. And then also, one thing that you need to understand too is predictive analytics is not just a forecast. You can also identify anomalies. You can also set it up and do some machine learning and other things like that to actually build optimization. So the Data Warehouse Institute actually put out a graph it was a couple of years ago where they had basically 4 different types of statistics and analysis that you could actually do. Well, coming to reality, there really isn't 4. There's actually 6. So, we look at the predictive analytics, which is your 5th circle there. So it's really the GPS of the business intelligence system. So you basically start with basic reporting analysis, then you do some monitoring. Then if you're starting to get smarter, you do some very basic statistics. You might do some logistic regression or some other things to be able to answer some questions. Then you move into the predictive analytics, and then what's called prescriptive analytics, which is actually what they call optimization. So once you move into predictive and then prescriptive, they kind of go hand in hand, because you want to be able to basically move to that final step where, imagine if you could actually optimize a marketing campaign. You could identify web behaviors that will increase customer responses, conversions, clicks, ways that you can decrease churn. And think about this not only from a store perspective, but you can also think about this from whether you're an education provider and who's potentially going to drop out, who's not going to take classes. We actually do stuff like that. And then also customer scores really help you to inform what actions you should take with that customer. So it doesn't get any more actionable than that. If you can actually be told, hey, this customer likes this type of product, and the next time that they come back, this is the type of product that they'd probably be interested in. That's the ideal, because you know what to feature to and what to show. And then, we're going to get back into this scary here for a second. And what does it provide? So there's many different things and many different levels of detail that you can actually do. So you can do summaries, you can do reporting, you can do forecasts, you can do optimization. You can also identify where problems exist. And then you can also, with customers, identify lifetime values, when are they coming back, what's their persistency, and then who are my best customers. And then once I know who my best customers are, looking at their individual transactions and be able to make recommendations on that. And then the ideal is being able to develop out a power ranking report. So this is just a basic example of that by cities that have been broken into different types of things for homeowners. And then, so why are more and more companies using predictive analytics today? So predictive analytics has proven over and over again that it leads to increased sales and profit. And we actually did some analysis, and we found that on average, we return at least $100 for every dollar that is spent towards a project with us in additional sales or risk aversion. So if you have things that, fraud and other things that are actually happening, we can help you to detect those. And then also some other things, marketing, sales, and customer relationship management are some of the areas where returns from analytics tend to be the highest. Doesn't mean that the others don't give you that same hit. It's just that because you're looking out into the marketplace and you're funneling more people in and you're identifying more customers, that your potentials for larger amounts are there. But there's also other side of this too, where you do operational optimization, and you can actually, reduce costs. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to cut all your staff to do that. What it means is helping to identify your pain points and being able to optimize those so that things flow better and things get into the right locations and stuff like that. So just a basic example was, we were able to take one online retailer, actually quite large retailer, over $1 billion, was able to increase their sales by 30% for a single campaign. So we just looked at one of their categories and 5 products within it, and was able to actually grow the company by 3% with an additional $80 million in revenue from that one area alone. So let me go into the Predictive Analytics 2.2 tool. This is a offering that SAP had acquired a company called KXDN a couple of years ago, back in 2013, and have actually enhanced and made it a really wonderful and easy-to-use tool that actually allows people that really don't know very much about statistics, really don't understand, or are data scientists. These are more the typical, what I would call smart business analysts. If they see a number, they'll be able to interpolate it a little bit. So there's 5 major components, and I'm actually going to cover 4 of those components today. There's a data management tool, which sounds kind of blasé. Oh, it's a data management tool. But the tool is actually really amazing, because not only can you actually bring in data and manipulate it on the fly without having to do any programming really, but it also has the capability of doing text mining and sequence analysis and event log aggregation. So this tool, basically there's other companies, SAS has SAS Enterprise Miner. It's over $50,000 a license to actually do that, and it's actually included in this tool. So that's one of the real kudos that I give to SAP for this tool. And then also there's the Predictive Analytics modeler component, and I'll get into that a little bit more about what it does. So it does classification, regression models. It does basic forecasts. You can cluster things together. You can also do association rule, or how do things work together. Then there's also the Predictive Analytics 2.2 social component. It helps you to find, who's influencing what. If you have people that are getting on Facebook and they're raving about your product, and other people see that and they make purchases from that, you can actually take some of that data and be able to identify who those influencers are, be able to identify where they're located and where the people that are associated to that are as well. And then taking some of the outputs actually from the social and being able to actually go in and actually make a recommendation from the findings from that and from some of the modeling, to be able to actually say, okay, the next time that this person comes in to my website, to my store, to my school, I can actually make a recommendation on, what product they should buy next, potentially what sequence of classes that they should actually take to be successful, and on and on. And then one of the components, I'm actually going to do an entire webinar just exclusively towards around it, is the expert analytics mode. And this is actually, you can actually be a novice and actually be really, really good with Predictive Analytics 2.2 expert. It's just there's a little more involved to it. And it has so many features that this would take 2 or 3 hours to actually take you through. So what are some of the advantages of the Predictive Analytics 2.2 tool? So it's really easy to actually use. It helps you to increase productivity. It's really fast. And then I'm going to show you a little bit of a big data grab that I'm actually going to do through SAP's HANA tool, which is actually rated, by the way, the #1 in-memory database tool in the world by Gartner. And then also it's very agile, and then it's very accurate, and it's very adaptive to changes in situations and changes in data. So what are the actual benefits of predictive analytics? It makes predictive analytics accessible to a broad spectrum, as I've mentioned before. It helps you to automate the data prep. You can't just take data that's just complete garbage and be able to read into it. There is somewhat of a technique, and that's why I kind of mentioned that there are some techniques. It allows you to actually build really fast and easy predictive models. And the other component to it, too, is you can actually deploy on the fly and actually send it to servers and other things. And then also you can build predictive models in a couple of minutes. And I'm actually going to show you this real time. And then also you can actually do scales of petabytes of data with insights from thousands of variables. And then also you can put predictive analytics into your business apps, processes, and information streams. So let me give you a little bit of an overview of kind of a practical example. So one of the expertise that we have here at Dunn Solutions Group is actually on the marketing side. So really being able to actually help you to take a lot of different components that are associated to not only the advertising type. So there's a bunch of different ones. There's out-of-home, TV, radio, newspaper, tons of different types of web campaigns, social media, competitor media, all kinds of stuff like that's actually out there through the omni-channel analytics and different ways that you can actually grab that data. But then you can also add in other things. So age of a building, play areas, hours of operation. And in addition to that, also be able to get reads and impacts from unemployment, gas prices, weather. I mean, there's just an infinite number of things that could potentially impact yourself. So this is actually kind of an example from actually one of the largest fast food chains in the world. And so I'm actually going to take you in and actually show you now some of the Predictive Analytics 2.2 capabilities. So let me go back. So this is actually all of those different components that I just described. So there's Data Manager, there is the Modeler component, which has the classifications, time series, association. You can also do frequent paths, which is actually really neat because this is the thing where if you are a museum or you're a store or something like that, you want to identify how do people actually get to your store? Where are they going where they actually might get a sign or something like that, or if there's a competitor that they might frequent path to and you want to identify where should you potentially put a sign so that they can turn left instead of going straight and going into their competitors, they'll turn left and come to your store or location. And then also the recommender and then the expert mode. So I'm actually going to show you something that's pretty cool here. So I'm actually going to do a text analysis, and I'm going to do a basic regression. And I'm actually going to grab that right out of a CSV file, or what they call a flat file. This is actually, you can use Excel. I mean, there's so many different things that you can actually use here. I'm just going to pick this one. I'm going to click Next. I'm going to analyze my data. So this has really smart capabilities within it. There's a few things that you actually have to do in order to be able to do a text analysis. Imagine that you have to actually have some text fields that you want to look at. So I've actually picked two of them, which is the comments, and then also looking at the competitors here. So then you can also add logic right here. So if you wanted to do a condition on different things, you know, if you wanted to see certain things over another, you can do that right here. Come right back to this later, actually save these filters and be able to use them again. Then it also has the capability of actually doing a ton of different languages, not just English, but also French and German and Italian and Spanish and Japanese. And, so I'm just going to pick English here. And then I'm also going to show you that you can actually, as this thing gets smarter, actually add words that you want to look for. So it's called these stop words. And then it also looks for word separators. So, you know, is there a comma? Is there an asterices? Is there parentheses? All of that different kind of stuff. And then I'm going to go on and I'm going to actually do a whole bunch of stuff here. So stop word removing. I'm going to do stemming reductions. I'm also going to do some concept merges. And I don't want to look at 1,000 different routes, but I want to know who's basically stealing advertising. So what this is actually a scenario where a competitor of this company is actually going into different convenience stores and actually taking down their advertising. And these are actually incident reports that are actually coming from salespeople in the field that are telling about these issues. And then you want to identify a pattern to it. So you can see that I'm running English, which is great. So you look at this and you get these big words back and you say, oh, I'm having a problem with people removing my sign, and it's this company called Big Meanings that's actually taking my sign. What types of signs? They're actually taking my big, what I call the big sign, and they're taking it from my point of sale, and there's some commonalities with stores and other things. So you can really start to see that there's actually a pattern here of, you know, people are taking down my signs. It's typically becoming these Big Meaning companies. And then, so I'm going to go in and actually, if you can look here, you can see that when I ran the comments, here's my top 50 components. And then also here's some other things from my competitors. So I'm actually going to look because I know I'm having an issue with people removing my stuff. So I'm actually going to take a lot of those things and actually look at them and actually break them down so that I can identify, is there a location, is there a certain type of store, is there certain types of things, attributes to that people are tending to actually remove my stuff more than others. And you actually have the capability here of actually doing some decision trees. You can also do some controls, but you don't have to. You know, these are more fancy components. Once you start to learn and once you start to get through these, you can actually do some great stuff with it. So I'm going to hit this, I'm going to generate, and it'll tell you if there's any problems at all. So it's saying that I have some weird things in my estimation. Not really a big deal, by the way. So as this kind of finalizes, which takes, imagine being able to take a data set that had over 22,000 incidents and thousands of comments that would literally take people days and days and days to go through, and being able to run that literally in less than a couple of minutes is actually amazing. And there you go. So we can see, you know, how this variable, so remove, it's really strong from a statistical perspective. This tool actually has optimizations within it so that it helps you to pick the best model. And then I want to look at, you know, what's causing these things. So, you know, I can see that there's descriptions, there's the store approved it. Oh, hey, look, there's a couple of states that are actually more common. And if you look at this, so the one on the left that's actually positive, that means that my incidents are actually happening in these states more often than all of these other ones that are actually negative. So it's what they call a positive contribution. And then you can also take some of these characteristics. So, you know, was there a guaranteed everyday low price that we had with that store? So really, they should not have taken our advertising down because we were the lowest cost store. And then you can see here, you know, if something doesn't make sense or there's too much variation, it tells you that right out of the box. So, and then you can kind of see that, you know, there are, you know, what's happening with the removals. So that's one of the really neat components. And by the way, you can also really quickly, if you have inpatient manager or something like that, and you want to be able to send them a report, watch this. There's a really strong statistical report that basically tells you, you know, people are removing my stuff, you know, what are the highest pushing elements. So, you know, are the stores approving it? Is there POS? Certain things? Is there certain cities or different things? Even longitudes and latitudes are actually there and available. And then also, so I'm going to get out of this, and I'm actually going to show you a real business problem now. So that's a really cool thing. So you have the text mining and everything available to you. Now, imagine if you wanted to actually take some stuff. So let's say that you had done some stuff in, let's just say, SAS before, which is one of the competitors here. And you wanted to be able to actually really slice and dice this stuff down. Because if you were to take this stuff into SAS, it literally would take you weeks and weeks and weeks to actually do what I'm going to do here in just a couple of minutes. So I analyzed my data. This actually is a very large restaurant chain. It's actually located throughout the world, so you can kind of see that there's a little bit of stuff on food and other things. And, you know, I've got a couple of weird variables here, so I'm actually going to bring in a basic description here to have it actually change those. So I want to make sure that, you know, there's a few things here that it's guessing. So it's not always perfect, but it does do a very nice job of being able to actually change these. So I'm going to do just a few. I'm not going to do all of them here. That's actually a very nice, easy way. See how quickly I'm actually changing my number characteristics. I'm changing all kinds of stuff about my data on the fly. I don't have to go in and actually recode all of these variables and say, oh, well, I know that they're supposed to be a continuous or, you know, and that's actually why I gave you that graph a little bit earlier, to kind of give you an idea that there are actually some different types of variables. There are a few things that you need to know and understand before you try to do any big models. But, you know, if I could teach you in a half an hour all the things that you actually need to understand to actually be able to run these models, then, you know, right out of the box. So here's one of the things I was actually talking about with being able to add conditions. So you go in here. I know I have some issues with my data, and I know that it would tell you the first time that you ran through it that you had an issue. I'm just going to save us a little time, and I'm actually going to add that the total sales has to be greater than 0. I had a couple of stores that actually didn't report, so I knew that. So this actually tries to make a guess on what you want to actually do your model on. So what I'm actually going to do my model on is I want to see what's driving my sales. And I want to understand that from a lot of different perspectives, actually. I want to be able to understand from the types of stores that I have, the ethnicity. I also want to be able to understand some of the ownership, you know, who are my competitors, and does holidays have more impact than others, and, you know, does my store hours or the amount of snow or my competitor media or my media, what drives my business? So, and you can also do decision tree here. I'm not going to do that today because it takes a little bit. And this actually is going to run for about a minute and a half. So I'm going to kind of give you a little more of the background here. So as the economy has shifted and as the economy has improved, this restaurant had great sales in the past. They've actually seen where, you know, other companies with healthier alternatives, maybe a little bit better, you know, not necessarily the low-cost leader and things like that, and have been able to actually take some of their market share. And we want to kind of identify, you know, what media is driving my business. What are some of the attributes about this individual restaurant that's actually driving my business? And I just want to tell you, by the way, this is actually running through over 1,000 variables. If you can imagine being able to, and if we had put this on HANA, or if we had put this on SQL Server, or if we had put it on one of our database systems, this thing would run almost instantaneously, especially with HANA because it's in memory. And you can kind of see what this is actually doing is this is actually going through multiple iterations of this model to actually test each different variable, see how important it is, determine whether it's going to stick in the model or not. This is where your data scientists would normally give you the biggest bang for the buck, and this is actually automated. You know, because normally the data scientists would test that variable in, they would test that variable out, they would, you know, to kind of what they call exercise the model so that it actually becomes optimized. And you can see this is continuing to do performances, and you can actually restrict it. I actually have this thing actually turned way up so that it's going to be really, really, really tight, so that it's going to be very accurate. You can actually turn it down so that you only have 1 or 2 potential iterations, and it'll run faster. And if you have, you know, obviously petabytes of data, then you should probably turn it down a little bit, even if you're using a really fast database environment. And let me show you, so I'm going to go in here and actually show you some of the really cool outputs that you actually can do while we're waiting on that. And it'll be done by the time we get back. But this is actually one of the basic outputs. So I want to identify, what's driving my sales. And I have bigger stores. I didn't do this as a time series. I just did it as a very basic model. How predictive is it? And then also looking at what is actually driving my business. So I can actually see that if people are ordering off my regular menu, not special products, that the lower percentage, so something in the mid-70s, is actually better than if they're basically always buying that off of my menu. I can also tell from an ethnicity perspective that there's a certain type that actually is negative. I can also tell if I have an indoor play place, that actually helps me to drive more sales. And then there's zip components, age of buildings. So older buildings tend to be better because they're probably in a better location. Here's one that's really weird that you wouldn't think would be something like that. That's actually gas prices. So in this instance, for this type of restaurant, it's actually better because they're the low-cost leader for prices to actually be higher. You can also see that the out-of-home, or it's a type of advertising campaign, is actually helping you. So the more that you do that, the more you're getting. And then also there's a range of unemployment where when unemployment actually gets lower, and I actually want to show you that in the tool rather than that all you do to get that report is actually hit that little export button. But I want to show you in the tool that you can actually see what's contributing. So what is driving my sales? So the hours, the play places, ethnicity, competitors, populations, so the higher density populations, things like that. And these are actually selecting out the different types of variables. And it actually does this for you. If I was to hit next and go on, it would actually par it down to only the best variables. And then so that you can machine learn it in the future and actually save out that model so that it actually would do that in the future. But I want to look at my contributions. And actually one of the really neat things here is you can actually go in and I want to look at just one of my things. So I want to look at snowfall. All right, so if there's no snow, basically sales aren't impacted. That's a duh, right? Everybody be like, well, yeah. But you can actually see that there actually is a point, and this is about 6 inches, where people basically aren't shopping at your restaurant anymore. They're basically staying home and kind of locking down. That's not totally stupid, People tend to, especially up here in the Midwest, where we get lots and lots of snow. So you can kind of see a pattern here too. So if you're going in and you're saying, oh, well, it's actually a good thing that unemployment is higher because people have more money, so they're not tending to actually spend money here. So one of the things that you actually would want to do here is unemployment is cyclical. So it goes up, it comes down all the time. Obviously we have recessions every few years. And if you can identify when those recessions are actually going to happen and when your unemployment rates are going to go up, you can actually start campaigns. Hey, we're the low-cost leader, we're close to home, all those different types of things that are actually available to you. And then also, just really fast here, I'm going to show you that you can actually do a recommendation really quick. So I'm going to create a new recommendation. I'm actually going to hook up to my HANA database here. I've actually cut this down so that I only have customers, products, and a key. And then I want to identify what products that my customers and what products that they actually are more likely to purchase. You can also add time frames in here. You can also identify, you know, how many different things you would actually want to do. And then I'm only going to do one iteration here. I'm going to do minimum support. And now I'm going to generate this. And literally within a few seconds here, you're going to be able to identify what things are actually should be recommended to your different people. And also then export that out and actually be able to take this. This is your customer number, and this is the products that they're most likely to be interested in. And just to kind of give you an idea of, you know, I'm going to pick a customer that bought a few products with me, and I'm going to display that node. And you can actually see that there's actually different types of things here. You know, different types of products that they're actually most likely to purchase, and the ones that have the shorter lines and the thicker lines have a higher probability. And then when you export this out, it actually has a number associated to it, so that you can actually then import that into your e-commerce website. So anyway, so you kind of got a pretty nice look at some of the basic features, you know, being able to do association rules and being able to do predictive and prescriptive analytics. And hopefully, you know, you get some ideas and some thoughts here. You know, it helps you to determine what are the best moves. So if you were to want to recommend a product, you know, you could actually do that. You also saw that it's fairly easy. I mean, there was nothing that I did there that's really complex. There's a little bit of things that you would need to understand, you know, just to make sure that you have all the right variables in there. But the tool actually makes some recommendations, so it gives you a lot of latitude, a lot of capabilities, and you can actually be a standard business user, and even a rocket scientist can actually use this tool as well, and actually they have. Right? And then it doesn't have to be hard. And the other thing that is out there as well is you can actually deploy these models out just by doing a save of model. You can actually save them into your database. You can actually save them as a query that you can put into the HANA or SQL Server or any one of those. And, you know, and if you just want to run models and actually be able to get real results, that's actually the way that you can do that. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Mike, and he's going to tell you guys how you can get in contact with us and potentially see if we can help you.
Great. Thanks, Joe, and appreciate everybody spending the last hour with us and going over and seeing the predictive analytics presentation that Joe went over today. Again, for sake of time, we will get back with you directly with the questions that some of you and several of you have provided. But in the meantime, you can contact us with the slide that you see there in terms of the number and the email. I will also, and some other people at Dun Solutions will be following up directly based on a request that you want to follow up with additional information on the subject matter. So again, thanks everybody, and we look forward to helping you out with your predictive needs. Thank you.